workshops, yeah. But I've got to the point when I believed in it so much because actually the training healed me, and I realised as a woman at the time, I'm 42 now, at the time when I trained, it was 2017, so I was in my late 30s, and I had spent my entire life mastering language, mastering my professional career, learning to present myself well, learning to manoeuvre in the world well. I've travelled backpacked solo to most countries I've wanted to go, but I never ever acquainted myself with my emotional self because I was frightened to hold the vulnerability because I'd been taught young that emotions were weakness. Back to the man stuff, what you were saying.
But the whole sort of, but it's interesting that you said, because I mean, like thinking back to what you were saying before as well, like how language and like the exploration of those interests and all those broad things and everything.
It was personal development for me. It was massive personal development. It seems to be like
an outward. Would you say it was an outward form of expressionism, and then you've kind of in your later career, like with the play theory, like
I was ready. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, the journalism was the first stage of it. Well, actually, no, the bike riding was the first stage, complete freedom. And I've got memories of riding in the rain. Yeah, riding in the rain and being so elated and happy. Yeah. Journalism, I wasn't ready to look at my own story, so I deflected and shone a light on other people's. And by understanding
the most emotional ones are the easiest ones, aren't they?
Yeah, but actually by understanding other people's plights, what I was drawn to is that it's that cup half full scenario. I wasn't drawn to the sadness. I was drawn to the fact that they made good. I was drawn to the fact they got out.
It's the journey.
That they healed. Yeah. And so by listening to all these stories of triumph, I eventually felt brave enough to look at my own. But it still took years, like journalism. And then I came out of a long-term relationship with someone who I really loved. And, I guess looking back, he did me a favour. And he'd probably say the same. And we're now friends, he's married with kids. But I loved him, and when he ended the relationship with me, I decided to go to Australia because I'd always wanted to visit.
I heard it sounds Yeah.
And then outdoor therapy, travelling, isn't it? Became a therapy for me, like everything. There's a poem, I rarely share it, but there's a poem called Photosynthesize Me. And there's, and I talk about how nature was therapy for me, but it made me realise that I had to backpack a different map of my own, which was my internal map, And so when I came back from Australia by force of hand, because my mum was ill she'd just been diagnosed with a very rare cancer. And it was chemo resistant, so in the end it became terminal. When she died, it was then that I was like, all I can remember thinking is, I don't want to feel this way anymore. If I can manage anything else in my life, why can't I look at this shit? Why can't I face this emotional stuff and just know that however messy it gets, I'll hold it. I'll be able to hold it for myself. And when I signed up for the therapy course, I remember saying to myself, making a pact to myself, whatever happens, you're going to get through this. Whatever comes up, you're going to greet it with affection. You're going to hug it.
Something similar, because I was trying to learn to listen better, which is an irony. So I became a therapist. I did the similar thing, but I learned about active listening and things like that.
Have you been to therapy before?
Yeah, loads. Like honestly, I mean, I think just from off the back of what happened with my ex back in 2018.
So for you, therapy is a positive thing. How about yourself?
I mean, it's sort of more like a sort of check-up. It's a bit like you go to the doctor if you have a cough.
I've done therapy as well.
Was it effective for you?
What kind? I found the counselling was easier.
Yeah.
Or not easier, but more effective when it comes to sort of traumas.
For me, it doesn't work for me, I don't think.
Why didn't it work for you, do you think?
Because it feels like it makes me feel helpless. It makes me feel like vulnerable, too vulnerable, I guess, maybe. And
that's the fear part.
Yeah.
That's the
so when in that room with that safe adult, they've got you to a stage where you feel helpless and vulnerable. That's the stuff to sit with. It's not the stuff you're talking about. It's the fact that the feeling is that you feel helpless. That's the thing to peel back.
And I guess
what is it about being helpless that you don't like?
And I guess the major issue for me is like it will put me in a bad mood for days.
Do you feel vulnerable when you're helpless?
It does. It's like
I guess it'll bring up all these emotions and it'll make me in a down mood. And I feel for me, it's not positive for my life. I'd rather do things that make me feel good than do something that I don't look forward to it. I don't look forward to bring up emotions.
Yeah.
And now I feel shit for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and that's a fair point.
It's like surgery. I mean, like, if you've got something that's under your skin and you're like, well, I can't see it, it doesn't matter. But then you kind of go in there and you just hoik it out, and then all of a sudden you start to feel better over time, not necessarily.
I guess in the long run,
it's emotionally exhausting.
I think for me, I got to a point where I literally hit roadblocks. So like, you're right. Like, I went through I've since met people, like, I lived in Australia for 3 years, and like, even recently a friend visited and we went out and had a lovely meal, and she said to me, look, I never realised all this was going on for you in Australia, So you're right in many ways, Marlon, that you get to a point where if the stuff you've been through when you're young, your ACEs, your traumatic experiences, are not playing, are not the weighing scales aren't imbalanced, So actually, yes, that happened, but I'm all right. And I'm thriving and I'm positive and I'm enjoying this stuff. You ain't got to look at it. But if ever you get to a point where it starts to actually weigh different, and this shit is affecting me to a point where it's impacting all my relationships. Or in fact, with my mum's died, and now I remember when my mum died, I was like, fuck, I'd realised how much of a mask I'd worn to be. I'm the sibling that's got it all together. Yeah, I'm the sibling. I've got it. Yeah, I study and I'm successful, and I'm all right. Yeah, I'm not a fuck up, and I'm not saying anyone in my family was a fuck up, but I think because my sister had anxiety and some mental health issues that was wrongly diagnosed. She was told she had depression. She didn't. She was told, I think, and she was put on the wrong kind of pills. But through my family, no one spoke about it. So it was almost like a bit of a madhouse. Like, there was all this stuff going on, and it was almost deemed normal. When of course it wasn't normal. And this is what I'm saying to you, that's when you don't realise you've come from something abusive or you've come from something unnormal. And I remember my sister saying to me, nothing wrong with my childhood, and you'll meet tons of people that go, my childhood was great, nothing wrong with me, it's hard, but fucking hell, it built me.
Well, I mean,
when you actually strip the layers off, well, no, actually that thing that you witnessed was terrifying, was it not? But you've got to, you take those layers off and just sit with that feeling, and you're very right. I've had nights where I've shaked. I've like had tremors where I've been like, oh my God, I remember that. And rather than medicate it, or rather than
touch my jaw,
rather than ignore it, I'd got to a point where I'd done certain type of healing. I'd gone down a holistic avenue of healing, and I'd met people that had put me in and had allowed me to tap into my body, where I carried the stress and why I was getting these pains, and I sat with it.
Can I touch on the holistic healing? Or what does that involve?
The holistic healing for me started with sound baths. Actually, it started with calm. Listening to meditative stuff, going to sleep, realising how much it calmed me. Then a friend of mine lent me this light thing. I don't know what they're called. They're expensive. From my friend Andy. It was this light thing. It was like a light mask, and it's got all these lights, and you're meant to listen to like some meditative process while it's doing it, and it's meant to like.
With your eyes open.
Yeah, and it's meant to like take it. Like, apparently.
Have you tried it?
I borrowed it. There, it's like a £500-600 mask. I don't know the name of it at all, but it's
£600.
It's meant to do what monks are trying to achieve for years.
Why don't you just get like? Wait,
it's like a light sound mask, I think it's called, Marlon.
We're Googling as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who are listening and
I remember
watching, we are having a Google.
I remember the first time I used it, I was like, the fuck is this? Like, it was like I could see all my neurons and all my wiggly things in my brain and behind my eyes. Like,
that looks a bit like an excessively Wait, I said that one's really creepy. All right, yeah, but it looks a bit like sort of like a I don't know. Have you seen the one with the face on it? Fuck it, now
I'll have to ask him, but there's a technology behind it, and it's to do with like setting the mind straight, like allowing your neurons to almost like reset themselves, and like synapses
neurons
stuff.
Weren't necessarily always firing at 100%. Because like with the
some of them fire and wired in the wrong way, didn't they? Because they can fire and wire in a way where you can definitely then lean towards a cup half empty, not half full. You know.
True. But the thing is, I was thinking, because it's like, you know, the way that it fires away is like, you know, like when you, for example, one of the things I learned last year was that the more you repeat a hurtful memory, the more it implants into your head.
So what you think is what you create, and you're very right.
And if, when you dwell on something, it just kind of imprints, and the feeling and the emotional attachment.
And that's interesting, because with my poetry, I got to a point where I was performing certain narratives of my poetry, and I was thinking recently I'd got involved in these different projects. And I've been really fortunate in the projects I've done. And I was thinking recently it's time for new stuff, because those stories are older stories now. It's time for new stuff. So you're right. You can repeat that stuff to yourself.
I mean, I've got to the stage where my friend told me to stop telling the same story because it was only hurting me.
Yeah.
And I think Marlon also, you said the same sort of thing. But it was, I mean, I realised there would be 20 minutes of a conversation in which I would go through the same shit. Everyone had heard it already. It's all right, we get it. She's a dick. You know, and you're just like, but... And it was just me trying to unpick it so it made sense.
I know, because talking to you, like, you go over the same stories, like, with your exes, like, over and over and over again.
To me or her?
You.
Oh, but do you know what? What I would say is, do unpick it. And
I tried.
This is the thing. Never believe that you're not good enough to unpick yourself. Right. And this is what the spoken word has given to me. Like, I feel like I've gone through like a new paradigm of thought. I feel like I've entered a new, like, dare I say, like a vortex of thought, because I've been allowed.
No way. Over here, you know, it's like shit. He's the producer. I can't lose you, Marlon.
But sorry, Marlon, I didn't answer your question. So the holistic stuff, in short, was started with very basic stuff like a static dance, like silent disco stuff, dancing, moving the body, getting the movement out your body. Then I went to a couple of retreats and I explored what it meant to, thank you, that'd be lovely. I explored what it meant to operate more in the feminine, because I'd always operated from my masculine energy, because when my father had left, I was, looking back, definitely more of a daddy's girl, and my sister was more for my mum. I loved my mum, but I did love my dad. And I stepped into that masculine role, and I've operated from my masculine for a long time. So I looked at where my energy was imbalanced, and I did a bit of work on my feminine, what it meant to be the feminine maiden and the feminine crone and the feminine mother and the feminine mage. There's stages to the feminine, and it's like a cyclical nature of, like, nature. So there's a really good book that I would recommend. It's called Women That Run With the Wolves.
Right.
Beautiful. It's a seminal piece of work, brilliant piece of work. Stick with it, because it isn't easy in the start.
It's kind of hard to, like,
beautifully poetic.
Okay.
And then you can find work called, like, there's a really good book I'm reading at the minute called Maiden to Mother, and it's about the mature archetypal stages of life. So what they say is, say you've not been a mother yourself, like I haven't, you can mother yourself. So when women have got the energy to be able to mother themselves, so you can move. The maiden is like, you know, like Robin Hood, like the virgin, the maiden. Yeah. That's the maiden. And when you move into mother, then you move into something called sage, which is like the mage, the wise woman, and then you move into crone, which is the.
I like the way they've said sage instead of witch.
Yeah. And it's a cycle. And when
we forgot to ask, do you have children or?
I don't have children. No. My sister has two beautiful nieces, two beautiful kids. Two beautiful nieces that I can give back when I want. One of them really looks like me, so that helps.
Yeah.
But it's interesting you say that, because now I'm in my early 40s. I'm not saying I would have never done it, but it's the one thing that my mum instilled in me. And Mummisms, my poem Mummisms, there's a line where she says, there's a line where I say...
Before you even go into that, we're going to ask you to do a poem before we...
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But there is a line where she says, oh, fuck. Now don't go giving your cake away to any Tom, Dick or Harry. And don't think a girl's role in life is only to have kids and marry. Be a woman who endlessly strives for her goals, and don't be coerced into quenching that unquenchable thirst. And it's this idea that women don't only have to have kids. Yeah. And now I'm older, I get it a lot. When I went to India, I travelled to India after my mum died.
Asian culture's the best for that.
People would say to me, "What's wrong with you? Where's your husband?"
Yeah,
Where's
my
your
friend,
kids?
my ex-girlfriend was
And I was
24
like,
and she would be
wow,
called a
like-
spinster.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It's
I've
like,
been called a
like,
spinster
yeah,
by
24.
my aunts, yeah.
That's horrible.
Definitely wasn't one.
I reckon spinsters had the right idea.
I think they went on. Yeah,
You're free. You're free.
there's a lot. I mean, like, yeah.
Should we go back to the holistic stuff? So
Yeah, what is with the-
holistic
the
training,
masculine and
holistic
feminine
learning,
energy,
the
what's the
masculine,
difference?
feminine. So you like, there's actually that. I can tell you a couple of retreats. I mean, a friend of mine runs one in Portugal, the Shanti Space. It's a bit of a plug, but they do a men's one as well. So 4 days, and it's called Alchemizing Male. So there's one for men, there's one for women, and I love them. Like I've only ever done
Have you ever
3.
been to one and you'd like seen a radical change in someone's sort of personality?
I've seen a
behaviour
radical
before and
change in
after?
me after those, because you give yourself permission to explore parts of yourself that were blocked off by conditioning. So it's unlearning yourself. I went to one that was all about this sounds more kinky than it was, but it was called
We love a good euphemism.
it was about Taoism, and it was tantra. It was tantra femininity, and there was 5 or 6 of us. This was in Thailand. I went to this retreat. I've been to 3 in my lifetime, and if I had the money, I'd go to them regularly. But they do cost a
It does
fair
sound
bit.
like you're about to big up an orgy.
No, it wasn't an orgy, but it was this. It was like honouring the feminine, and you had to look at the different stages of woman that you were, and the different faces of woman. And, and what I realised is when they asked me to stand up, and they played music, and they asked me to move like the warrior woman, because that's one side of the archetypal woman, I could do it. But when they asked me to be the sensual woman, I couldn't do it, right? And I was very awkward back then. And when I think, like 5 years on, I'm now more fully in tap with that sensual woman. So the journey of learning about sensuality has been brilliant, because I started doing that kind of holistic learning. So you owe it to yourself to try and learn the parts of your body that you're not the parts of your personality, or the parts of your sexuality that you're not as comfortable with, because sometimes that is what holds the key, your gender, whatever it is that you define it as. And for me, I always felt like I was operating with very strong energy, and I just wanted to know what the soft loo felt like where had the soft loo gone? Not to be feminine that means soft, but for me, femininity meant just to be a bit softer, So I've done that. I really rate reflexology, like I do it regularly.
Is that where they do your feet?
The feet, where they switch off the
Indonesia,
pineal gland.
they are
Yeah,
amazing at that.
yeah.
It's like £2.
Yeah. No, it's not that cheap for
10,
me.
but yeah.
I've done Reiki, so that's more like energy healing. Yeah.
I keep trying to get her to do it on me, because I've had
It's hard to do it because you have to kind of do a course. You need
she's
to go
done
to a
the course.
Reiki.
She's done all that stuff, and then it's just like, but I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I just kind of want to know, because about 5 years ago.
Oh my
when I was
God,
going
get on
through
that,
trauma-
mate. If your
keep
partner
asking
is
her,
a
but she gets
Reiki
all mad at
healer,
me.
you got to get on that shit.
She's so angry at me. She won't.
Fucking
she won't
hell,
do it.
that's-
She's like, no. And I'm like, just a question. She's like, stop asking. I'll do it when I'm ready.
But
I'm
I would,
not unconscious.
I would say, like, I never knew. I think the thing that I'd say the most is I never knew what any of this stuff really was. All I knew is when I got to a point where I wanted to try it, I thought, what the fuck have I got to lose?
Yeah, well, quite a lot of money.
It's going to make me feel better than what I feel now. Yeah. And I might actually learn something about myself that I never knew. And that was enough. I didn't have to read up. And actually, sometimes I purposely didn't read up.
Yeah, I do.
I went into these things blind, so I wouldn't have any blocks or preconceived ideas of what it was going to give me.
I want to go back to the reflexology thing.
Yeah.
So, have you done it before? Is there places in the UK that you can get this done?
Reflexology, there's loads. The lady...
'Cause I'm not gonna lie, I had a look online, and I was like, there's like little tips you can do for yourself. So I was just looking at. For anybody listening, if you don't know who
Depends if you like to be touched.
this is your feet. This is specific areas
that
that release certain
I'm
emotions.
sorry to go off the point, but I must go back and just finish what I said about that retreat, right? Because what happened at the end of that retreat, like, I'd got to know 5 women over like 5 days, and we danced, we laughed, we screamed, we worked. Yeah, it wasn't only, but it was ended up being women. We raged, like it was what they, real fucking holy rage, where you could punch walls and punch floors and do what you want. And
It sounds like
there was there was no drugs. But you were given permission to you were just given permission, And when you start that kind of thing, like I've done 2 retreats like that since. That was my very first one. I was awkward. By the third one, I wasn't at all. I was, But at the end of that retreat, Daisy, the facilitator, beautiful woman, we did this thing.
There's something to them, don't they? Like,
oh, she was like a magical fairy witch, right?
Like,
but we had to do this thing where we each had to bring an offering to our sisters, right? So say like someone bought chocolate, I bought lavender oil, someone bought a feather, no one bought rosé, and we basically in groups took it in turns. You're going to think this is a bit of an orgy, but it wasn't. We got blindfolded.
I'm not dirty.
Right, we got blindfolded. And we laid down, and like a group of, say, like 3 of them, for 5 to 10 minutes, you laid there, you had clothes on, and they basically gave you a sensual experience. So all of a sudden you'd feel feathers going down your body, or you'd feel like a silk sarong, like, go over your body like this, and then someone came up to you and fed you chocolate, and then someone put like lavender under your nose and went, sniff.
I just laugh my
someone
ass off
come over and went, eat me, and then like gave me a bit of mango.
I'm not going to say it, but like if some girl's coming up,
that does sound a bit like an orgy night.
Thank you. I mean, I want to make sure that the bar is left where I put it. But you know,
it was a food.
A girl comes up to you and goes, "Eat me," and while you're like,
a
tantric moment,
I'd be like, "Oh, my eyes be closed," and as soon as they say that, I'd be like.
No,
yeah, eat me. Like,
the mango was there. The mango was there on my lip, and she'd open your mouth.
This does sound a little bit like it was going. Yeah. I'm sorry, but it's like I bet at least 3 of them were.
But then it was a mango, But the ultimate.
Oh yeah, it was a mango. I bet you were so disappointed.
Not a euphemism, but it was a mango, and it was juicy. It was juicy.
We don't judge here. We don't judge. I mean, this does sound kind of like a sensual version of BDSM in a way.
No, but what it taught me is that I was like.
So was this in the UK?
This was in Thailand.
Okay.
It was
I bet it was.
No.
I'm sorry.
It was at a gorgeous retreat
I'm
called.
holding back.
It was at a gorgeous retreat called the Sanctuary. It's in Koh Phangan, and it's off the beach. So where you've got the big party that goes on.
Yeah,
right?
Moonlight Party.
Yeah,
Oh,
so you go to that beach and you get a boat, and they take you about 20 minutes, and they take you to the retreat that's called the Sanctuary.
Not in that regard. Like not as.
But I'm not. I'd
love to go again.
Maybe everyone's got their own thing. It certainly wasn't sexual for me, but what it taught me is how to be so in touch with my sensuality. And since then, without going into that realm of sex,
I ain't going nowhere near.
My sensual ability in an intimate relationship now and in a sexual relationship is that much better. And actually, it's only when I started to tap into my sensuality that I started to have better orgasms and actually better connection with my femininity. So therefore, surely there's a link, because I had closed that off, that feminine energy.
Is it something like?
It's interesting you went for your chest as well when you describe feminine energy as well. Like,
is it something
no,
like?
No, it's true. I
guess like monks will say like the chakras in your body. You have to release the chakras, certain chakras that's closed off. Is that something that's similar to what you experienced?
I think I've had moments, where I've done chakra healing, and I'm someone who's open to it. Like I can't. How do we ever know what is real and what isn't? Right? Life is a mystery. Like I wake up sometimes and go, "Wow, like this."
I like the idea that there's like different frequencies of visibility, and there might be an entire different world that we can't see.
I do believe in energy. Yeah, I do believe in.
So to cut you
energy healing.
What's everybody's opinion on religion here?
Here we go.
Let's start with you.
Number one.
It's hard, isn't it? Because for me, religion, divinity, spirituality, God, if you like, is the cosmos. For me, science, like the most definite thing is science. That's it. What's out there. A friend of mine used to say that the moon looked like God's torchlight. And it's that to me is a definite. And that's special. That's magical. And I am. But interestingly, growing up, I loved RE, and the secondary school I went to was at the time in the 90s probably 95% Bengali. So we had prayer rooms for Ramadan. I had, like I said, Sikh and Hindu. Loads of the old Czech Republic had come over, and the Somalians were just coming in, and Tower Hamlets taught me. I don't like the word tolerance. You know when people say taught me to be tolerant.
Tolerance.
No,
isn't the right word
I
for
understood where that came from.
Because tolerant doesn't
It's like I
imply that
tolerate
you
you.
accept.
It's like
people.
you
Just
annoy me,
yeah.
but it's
tolerate
okay.
I see where it came from, because once it was a word okay to use,
Well,
but
it
it
still
made
probably
me.
is,
It gave me incredible, like, what's the word, like, religious exposure, ethnic exposure.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
though.
exposure. Like, and when I went off to uni, I went to Manchester, so it was quite a lively city. I came into contact with people that had not met anyone that was from any kind of background like that, and I realised it was a
interesting,
plus.
isn't it?
It was a
Yeah,
plus,
it
you know. So, in answer to that, I grew up around a lot of people that shared their culture with me, and culture for me like that. I used to kind of get involved in, like, when it was Diwali or when it was
That's
Eid,
cool.
I'd wear one of the girls would dress me up in a sari, and I'd
Yeah.
get involved in, like, the dance in assembly.
That's fun.
And we celebrated through food. So
That's really
I learned
good.
about religions through food. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
food is a really interesting part of every religion as well. I find that, you know, like, for example, Onam.
Yeah.
My ex was Indian, and I loved that. It was her favourite day. It was her favourite meal. And it's such an honour to be a part of that. And I'm not saying that as a sort of like, oh yeah, namaste. I actually genuinely just went over there every
so
Wednesday. But, you know, like, it was great fun. It was just, like, so fascinating to
Yeah.
kind of learn all that new stuff and experience all that. Like, I think that
I-
kind of links into
yeah.
the religion thing is, in my opinion, I think that it's something to be explored, not necessarily to be divisive about.
no,
A friend of mine
it scares
recently
me when
messaged
people are.
It's weird.
You know, it scares me when people are, and it scares me when people still, like, blockade, like, categorize people.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm like,
think-
I've never seen that. I've never looked, like, I have to share this. It's quite a funny story. When I was 5, going back to my infant school, Mr. Jones, but it wasn't Mr. Jones then, it was Miss Peacock. I think it was like my second day of
Was
school.
Mr. Mustard busy?
Right? Yeah, Mr. Mustard. Cluedo. I went to school, and my mum came to the school gate to pick me up, and she was like, I loved Kiss Jays, right? You know, I loved the boys.
I was
back
lost at that.
my mum was like, where? To, like, Joanne Peacock, where's Louise? And she was like, oh, she's just inside kissing Abdul and Delroy goodbye. You know,
wait, can we stop there? Someone was called Delboy.
Delroy and Abdul and Delroy goodbye. And I was already, I was like chasing around the boys that were different from me. You know, I was always intrigued
Bit of
by
diversity.
culture. I was always intrigued by diversity and difference, and I still am. And I'm always someone that is mega fascinated. Like, our world has become, like, ethnically ambiguous,
Oh, that's silly.
hasn't it? You can't tell where anyone's from.
I mean,
Like, you could see someone and you don't know that they're Cypriot Brazilian.
No, I think that. But one of the
No.
things I was exploring in one of my articles recently was the fact that it's. In fact, it's what was, I was triggered by that ableist racist thing. It's like the thing.
Yeah,
that
that's awful.
Yeah, the thing that pissed me off about that was it's like, why the fuck wouldn't you ask?
Yeah.
Like, you should want to be curious about someone else's culture. That's not racism. You know, like, you were describing being put up in a sari, and, you know, I heard all this fuss about, you know, like, cultural appropriation. Oh, fuck off. You know, like, if your mate is saying, like, you know, like, it's saying, like, oh, try this. You know, like, I mean, I'm wearing, at the moment in my beard, there is some stuff that my ex, who was African, she gave me to kind of make my hair soft. And you know what? Fucking amazing. If you want to get soft hair, go to an African shop. My God. You know,
Yeah,
like,
I
like
agree with
African
you.
hair
Like,
shop and,
share it. Why don't we
pick the
share
stuff
it?
that's, like,
Yeah.
really weird, like the weirdest looking shit that you've seen. Smells amazing.
Mm.
Get the lady behind the thing, you know, like behind the counter, because she knows her shit, and, like, you know, like, she'll come along and she'll tell you what to put in your beard, and it'll be better than any of the shit you'll find on Amazon. It's amazing. And
I
you know,
think it's
not just that,
interesting.
obviously,
No,
but, you know, like,
but
there's
you're
more
right.
to it.
But also,
there are elements of religions though that I don't necessarily like as much. Like, a couple of my ex-girlfriends were Indonesian Muslims, and there was this whole concept of haram, which is, you know, that something's forbidden. And I'm like, and whenever someone tells me no, I want to know why. For example, I mean, I'm not applying that to all scenarios, but in general, if it's like you can't go down there, kind of want to know why can't I go down that road? Because there's an ogre in there; it will kill you. Right? Not going to go down that road. Why not? Because I said not. I really want to do it now. Why don't you want me to go down there? You know, like, and that becomes about that kind of thing. But I think that when it comes to religion and things, I mean, I was just chatting to a friend of mine. We're being very heavily misrepresented since Brexit, in particular. I think, as you know, like, a lot of my foreigner friends, they've all been saying, you know, they ask me, "Oh, is it really racist like it looks?" And you know, there is the
That's a
polarization of
shame.
the media. Yeah, he was saying, like, you know, he sort of saw that how, you know, there was anti-Palestine countermarch and all that Remembrance Sunday stuff, and he was like, "What's going on over there?" And as you said, I was like,
awful.
well, you know, like it's just it's ridiculous because 99.9% of people can't give a fuck about your religion. Like,
I think
it's fine. It's
capitalism is
interesting.
numbing, isn't it? Like
That's exhausting.
Capitalism is like
There's no community anymore, and that's one of the things that I find quite scary. Is that these religious, the religion is scary because it creates community, which is power. Whereas if you have an a-religious society, an atheist society, where there is no centre of community, that's why we've all ended up with sort of more of us are going to therapists than ever before. We have more depression. We have cliques and things like that. But it's just everyone feels a little bit lost, I think.
I think, like, I was thinking this the other day, like capitalism has almost become like an anaesthetic, and what it does is it numbs people.
Yeah,
like,
buy this, feel good for
to
2
the point,
seconds.
but to the point where, like, the normal rigmarole of, like, wake, work, sleep, eat, work, pay the bills, pay for that, pay for this credit cards, this,
everything's
it's
for a reason.
desensitized.
Money.
It's desensitized. I posted a poem really early. I knew it was going to go bad, and then like days in, I realised there was this mass triggering going on where everyone was becoming dysregulated because no one actually knew what the fuck were they going to do here. That we're helpless.
Well,
we can't do fuck all other than go on marches.
It's frustrating.
And you could claim that you're given those marches just to really be quiet.
Did you go on the march?
I went on a couple of them, yeah. And I think that
what was the atmosphere like?
it was like all marches. Like, I remember going on the Iraq War one, and it was full. Like, you're always a bit worried about. I don't like massive crowds anymore, but it's like people are optimistic, people are hopeful, people are stoic, people are, comrades, aren't they? It doesn't matter if you don't go. Like, some of them I didn't go to, but
I'll confess I've never been on a march.
you've never been.
I think I've
You
been
could do
through
like an on the
protests.
spot podcast on a march. It'd
That'd
be
be
cool.
fun.
That's true.
Because where you do off the point, you could go along on a march and it'd be so off the point because you wouldn't know what you'd be getting from
Where the
people.
fuck are we, Marlon? I have no goddamn idea. Who's got the map? She does.
Who
Where
was
is
that
she?
person we
She's
just
run
spoke?
off.
Who
She's out.
knows? Fuck knows.
She's had a
It was
storm
good.
off, and we're still filming.
You could do like an off the point special on a march, and it might
That'd
be
be
quite
fun.
cool.
That would actually be really good fun.
And people would. You've got the equipment.
Off point outside.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You should consider it. You should consider it.
A couple of people hold the camera. And I'm happy to chat to people. Cool. We call
I
it
do
box.
have one of them mics that you hold, like.
Yeah, I've got.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
got like a dictaphone kind of.
I do have one of them.
It's not the same. Oh, you need a little fuzzy thing on top.
Yeah, I got them.
Watch this space. Look me up. I'll come and be a cameraman
Hell
or,
yeah.
or a mic bird.
Yeah. Although it's like, kindly get your ass off that goddamn
They'll
thing. We're trying to be professional. Fuck. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to make 6 innuendos about tits to this feminist. So, the Women's March. Free the nipple.
That could be a laugh. You
It
should
wouldn't
try
for them.
it. Well, it usually never is, but for feminists it isn't anyway.
Oh,
Do you think
feminism's
you can
fun.
be too much of a feminist?
Yeah, well, definitely.
I'm a feminist.